Good afternoon. Welcome to Black History Month 2022 with Songwriters Association of Canada. I'm your host, Shanay, and today I will be chatting with Tush, one half of Tush.Love. Before we begin, I will be doing a land acknowledgement. The land we are standing on today is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. I also acknowledge that Takaranto is covered by Treaty 13 signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. Let's begin. So today's topic is the Black alternative, which is the artistic expression and the songwriting process we're going to be talking about today. So although Black music lends itself to multiple genres we've all grown to enjoy, the genre formerly known as urban isn't the only instance you'll hear and feel Black voices. Let's sit down and talk to Black artists and unpack artistic expression and the songwriting process in an alternative way. So in this case, it's underground music. Let's begin. Songwriters Association Canada will be celebrating 40 years next year. And at S.A.C, we strive to nurture, develop, and protect the creative, business, and legal interests of music creators in Canada and around the world. Three of the most important tenets representing S.A.C's work are education, advocacy, and community. We'll be focusing on all of these topics within this discussion throughout this year's panels, and we want to ensure that these messages are delivered today. Thank you so much for being here. All right, welcome Tush, welcome. So excited to have you here today.
Likewise, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I just want to congratulate you on your performance with CBC Music Presents, the intro a few weeks ago.
Thank
I
you.
had the chance to watch it and it was really good. It was really, really good. I was so excited to see you on TV because I'd seen your photos and your blurbs online. So that was amazing. Um, I also want you to go a little bit into the story of how Tush came to be, because it's quite interesting, and I think it's going to be appealing to a lot of artists, music creators, songwriters, how it goes to like put your creativity out there.
Totally. I actually got involved with Tush before Tush even existed, which is weird to say, but I used to be called a band called Mainline. And it was a different personnel, it was different people, different sound. And I fell into that through Craigslist. I used to scour Craigslist every day looking for gigs because I had like just quit my full-time job and I was like, I just want to do music. So I would look every day just trying to find a spot for me to sing. And so I found this ad that was like looking for a singer to sing this song and perform like disco music. And the song was Venus Dodson, Shining by Venus Dodson. And I was like, oh, I think I could do this. So I practiced so much. I practiced like every day, like days, weeks on end, this one song, because I just wanted it so bad. Because I was like, I feel like this is like really a spot for me to thrive, considering my like background with soul music, funk music. I didn't know it was disco music. Like
Mm-hmm.
growing up, like that was just like my parents are both Caribbean immigrants who moved here, and they're huge like audiophiles. They love music, and so like growing up, I say the story often. Like on Saturdays, the vinyls would be on, and you'd get up to clean the house, and like it would be disco music, but to me it was just, you know, my family's music. It was just Black music. It wasn't disco. Like I didn't understand it as that. Whereas in this ad, it was like disco. And so like disco. I was like, oh, like this is disco? I thought disco was like the Bee Gees,
Yeah,
which it is, but I didn't understand that there was this huge, you know, Black cultural history behind it. Because it was just I was just brought up with it so casually. Um, and so yeah, I auditioned. It was a different band at that time. It was also like it was managed by different people. And eventually we were doing like covers of like rare groove disco. So like still underground disco tracks, but like always covers. There's no original music. And it just got to a point where I was like, I know it was really special. People really loved what we did, and we hadn't put any music out, but we were like had great show turnouts, and you know, we're getting booked and doing pretty well, and start to get some label interest. And I was like, you know, I really think we should keep pushing this and start putting original music out. And that's when things kind of changed. And Mainline ended because the people who were managing it didn't really want to go that route. They had kind of their DJ night and their disco thing that they did, and that's what they wanted to keep. I also was kind of struggling with not having a lot of autonomy in the group. I felt like I was very much kind of playing a caricature. Like I was kind of expected. I had a big afro at the time, so like there was this expectation of Blackness that they wanted performed, and I started to feel really like claustrophobic in that, like oh, there's like no room for me to kind of push back because I'm a weird person. So I'm like, I can do this, I can do capital D disco, but I'm also so many other things. And the more that I like dug into disco and dance music and started to really dig into, you know, the woman and the queer community behind it, I was like, it's all of these things. It's not just, you know, a, you know, sexy girl with an afro, although that's very fun, but it's also like defying time and temporal expectations on the dance floor, and mixing communities. And it was made by these pioneers of like, you know, queer people, women, Black people, Latino people, like it's all these things. So I start to get kind of stuck in the main line in those days, being like, I don't want to just sing covers anymore. I want to find my voice in this. And that's when things shifted in, and we parted ways, and then we rebranded as Tush, and we also changed the personnel. I was like, if we're going to do this, you know, I want to have people I know in here, people who are Black, who are women, who are queer, that are going to be part of this, that can honor the roots of where, you know, disco and house music came from, like the actual pioneers of this music. So yeah, things changed a lot.
yeah.
And that's so yeah, how Tush came to be.
I think it's amazing how that change that you made kind of like skyrocketed the whole, I want to call it machine, because I mean I didn't know Mainline, but what is it, 2 years ago now, I brought DJ producer Ralph Gum to Toronto, and Ralph played your track, and I heard it, and the sound system at the venue, it's called Last Planet in Toronto. He turned it on, and I heard your voice, like your voice was like, nah, nah, like it was loud. And I looked at him, and he was nodding his head and mixing and smiling. And it's after the party, I said to him, who is that? And he's like, how could you not know? She's from Toronto. I'm like, this person is from Toronto. And he was like, yeah. And I went to look it up, and I said, wow, it's a Osunlade mix. Like I was like so fascinated. And then that's when I looked into you, and I'm like, we need more of this, like vocalists from here that are here. So for you to tell your story and how it came to be, it's fascinating. It's incredible. It's wonderful. I'm so excited. Um, so when you talked about that segue of like from mainline doing cover
Mhm.
to original material, what was that like, trying to dig up original material? Were you like writing off the cuff? Were you collaborating with writing? Were you writing alone? Was it poetry? Like how did it come to be?
Yeah. Well, the other half of Tush, of the core members, is myself and Jamie Kidd, who is a producer, bassist, longtime DJ. He's one of the co-founders of Box of Kittens, who've been throwing parties for a very long time. And so he was in Mainline. He wasn't an original Mainline member, but he was in it and was supported me in being like, I want to start doing original music, and so did he. And so he was a big part of that shift and starting to switch into writing music, and having him was really helpful for me. I still struggle like with songwriting in a conventional sense. I'm not a conventional songwriter, and I never have been. I've never been like a B, a hook, a like I've never written like that. I've always written very like abstractly and loosely. I write a lot of just kind of free form journaling and like sketches and poems, and I'll get lots of ideas in my head that I'll like sing into my voice notes on my phone. But I came previously from a band where there was a lot of conventional songwriting, and I think I really internalized that I wasn't a good songwriter because I didn't write like that.
Mhm.
I didn't write like yeah, I didn't write songs like that. And so when I think something that attracts me so much to like dance music is I feel like there's more space to be abstract, especially in house music, where maybe the only lyrics you're going to hear is deep inside, deep inside, over and over and over again. And that's the track. And I'm
Yeah,
like, great.
yeah, yeah.
Like that is there was a lot, I felt like there was a lot of space for me to write the way that I do and still have it be considered a song.
Yeah.
um so that's that's kind of like where I was coming from as a songwriter. But Jamie, who's also, you know, been making dance music, electronic music for so long,
He has.
yes, a long time, he was like so great at understanding that about me and being like, great, like then that's how we're going to write. Let's just improv. So a lot of the writing we do is improvisational. Jamie will often write in his studio. He actually got me a vocal looper and was like, I think this would be really great for you, like considering your style, and like I really like to play vocal arrangements. Like I think this will really be good. And that changed my life really. Like he really opened doors for me with that, and really like was giving tangible support in the way that I am creative, and not forcing me to be like, no, we need to write like this or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I think that's another aspect like of my approach, is that I had a really great support system,
Mhm.
encouraging like that kind of writing. And so in terms of like tangible methods, a lot of our stuff is improv, where he'll set up and we'll make a little nook and cranny for me to like set up my looper. I'll usually put lights on and like dim the main lights, but put Christmas lights up, and we'll put candles and like I'll be on my side
Yeah.
looping, and he'll be on his side, like either, you know, jamming on his bass or playing on a drum machine or a pad or his machine pad. And eventually, and we'll be synced, like we'll use a mini sync to be connected, so my loops will always be in tempo with him.
Mhm.
And I often just start like just with a ha ha, or like or sounds or something, or a word, and then I'll loop it, and eventually we'll start to take a groove, and then it will continue on, and eventually make it to a song.
Right.
That's in many cases we write like that. And then sometimes we'll take those and bring them to the rest of our band, who consists of Alexa Belgrave on keys, and we have various drummers. Our personnel changes a lot, but Alexa has been playing with us for quite some time.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we'll be like, oh, add this in, or like our friend Miles, we had to come and be like, put in, what do you like, what's the drum beat you're feeling behind this? And so we'll improv with them too, and kind of bring them grooves that we're looking to flesh out more.
Right.
Yeah. And then in other aspects, I also do produce on my own. That's some of our tracks off our debut album, Fantast, were just me in my basement with Logic. just making jams. And then often I'll get frustrated because I'm not like, I wouldn't consider myself an advanced producer, but I know enough to get started and to get by, which is what I always encourage like other women and other people to do. Like, don't feel like you have to be, the best. You just need enough to get by, and then you can ask for help. And Jamie's great with that. So I'll bring him a track being like, I'm not really sure what to do with this bass line. And he's like, great, let me add something in. So really collaborative in pretty much all aspects. I don't tend to write alone, at least, and not in this project, at least.
Mhm, mhm. Wow, the last album, the I guess the newest album, fantastic. I heard it. It's nice. It's very ethereal. It has like a lot of tones. Like it's extra sensory. You can feel it when you're sitting down listening to it. It was well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done. And also too, I noticed that you were part of the lineup uh, at Coda, which is one of my favorite places, for Reboot, which is a
Yes.
factor-funded, uh, I guess, project to revive or support live music. And I saw your name, your group's name, next to some of the best in Toronto when it comes to underground. And I was very happy to see that. And that definitely is a reboot I think the scene needed. So how was it? I wasn't able to get tickets.
I mean, it was the first show we did, indoor show during, like, since COVID started.
Mhm.
So it was anxiety inducing, I think. Like, no one really knew what to expect. It was the first indoor show, so like people were supposed to wear masks. People didn't wear masks. Like, people were like supposed to be like, it was this kind of, experiment of like, here's all these rules, but now we're inside. How are we going to coincide with this? So considering how in the moment our shows are very I like to get, pretty raw and lost in the set. It actually made it a little bit challenging for me because I was like, oh yeah, we're in a pandemic. But as the night went on, things eased, and I let my guard down, and so things went really well. It was the first time we really got to play our songs off the album since it had come out, and we got to have Derek Thorne on as well, and who was playing percussion. I got to have Lydia Prasad and Tafari Anthony on for backing vocals, and those are always like my favorite parts. Playing live is where Tush, that's like our bread and butter
Yeah.
of live performance. That's our favorite thing. So that felt great. And we were the only live group, I think, in the entire festival.
And we need something like that to revive the scene, I think, because we know the DJ and production, it's a given. So yeah. No, I heard very excellent reviews about your performance, so I thought I'd ask. Yeah. Um, so now let's talk about what what it's like looking for gigs as a Black female vocalist. I wanted to say Canada, but I don't know how far Tush has gone or yourself in terms of travel across the country. But what is it like looking for gigs?
Totally. Canada is a very interesting place for the music industry, as I know all of us, I'm sure, have thought or experienced at some point. Um, it has been it's been interesting. I think people, when they hear disco, the word disco, like as I was saying earlier, they have a very particular expectation or aesthetic that comes to mind. And so, a lot of people want four to the floor from us. That's what they want. And they want like oh, are you gonna do any covers of the hits or the classics? Or they'll be like, oh, Donna Summer. Like, so they have these preconceived notions of what Tush is going to be. Now that the album has come out and people have heard it and they're like, wow, that's weird. Because it's not traditional capital D disco. It's
Yeah.
not. And that was very intentional. I think people are kind of like, oh, okay, you're kind of doing something else. So prior to, I like, there was these expectations and even requests that like we've been asked at gigs, oh, can you like play this show? We're gonna do like a throwback, Studio 54. That's what we get a lot. And we're all gonna wear afros. And I'm like, no. I'm like, no. So yeah, there is like finding gigs in that way is that it was this continued fetishization that I've experienced a lot. And I've been like active in the Canadian music scene since I was 18, like long before Tush existed. And it was similar. I always had these certain expectations, but then when mainline came and then Tush came, as soon as it's like me and disco, they're like the very particular things that they want to see. Now that, Tush is starting to really carve out who we are, and that, we fall in their disco music, but we've started going into house music a lot, and the transfer of those two things, they go back and forth, like kind of, they share with each other so much. Those expectations have shifted, although from time to time I'll still get, can you guys do like, throwback the hits of the time? And I'm not opposed to it. I'm just like, don't expect. I know what you're expecting, and like, we're not going to give you that. So
Yeah.
there's usually a little bit of a surprise when we do this, and they're like, oh, that was experimental, and that was like, um, because we've also changed our sets based off of that. Like, our sets have become a reflection of the dance floor more so, and a reflection of like house music and the pillars and like key principles of things. Insofar, like some of our sets that are that we do like at Coda, which are more club centric, are like, we never stop playing. And a lot of people have said like, oh, it's kind of like a DJ set because we don't stop, we don't take rests in between, we just
Yeah.
transition into the next track, and we'll do that live, like vocally. We'll use a hook and transition into the next song. We don't stop and then, oh yay, and then clap, and then we
I
don't
know.
do that. That being said, when we have our live band, which we're bringing back this summer for some festival shows, that has a little bit more of the spectacle and like, I think, tradition that people are expecting. So we still go between both because I love doing both. It's not that I don't like doing disco music and maybe the things that people expect more. I just like to switch it up. I never like to give people the only thing I want to give people of their expectations is that we're an excellent group. I will always give you an excellent show, but outside of your cultural expectations, that I will play around with because I don't like to be like stuck into things from people. So yeah, it's the gigs. The other part of the structural aspect, I think, for gigs in Canada, especially when people want our live band, is that it's like 7, 8 people. It's a lot of people. It's a
Yeah.
lot of people to travel. It's a lot of people to host. It's a lot of people to pay. And so if you want that, like, you gotta pay up.
Yeah. I would say what you're doing is revolutionary, especially for a time where we are going through a transition. It's 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 painful, a little bit painful, a little bit slow, but it's changing. And I think now the time's ripe for a change like this. You're shaking up the scene where it's like the underground and then also making appearances like you did on the CBC, which I think is wonderful. It's a very good platform to introduce something fresh. So good, good, good.
Thank you so much. That's such a
Yeah.
high compliment.
No, because you know, when things are the same way for a few generations, it's nice, it's accepted, it's welcomed, we get it, we know what to expect. But then when something new comes and disrupts the status quo, now you have people looking like, what is this? It's not what I thought I was gonna see, like what you were saying. And
Mhm.
underground club culture is kind of like off to the side and separate. So to bring yourself with a group on a platform where they're just getting used to maybe the R&B vocalist or the pop, I'll say pop R&B vocalist.
Mhm.
And then they're used to like, okay, it's a band, it's a rock band. They're used to that. So now you're
Yeah.
seeing something, not even any of those things. And it's little by little, but it's happening. It's happening. And you're part of the change. It's good.
Thank you. Thank you for seeing us.
Oh, absolutely. I'm always looking for like new, fresh, up and coming. Um, so have you ever participated in any songwriting camps or any kind of collaborative um, programs that help to, I guess, expand your knowledge base or your expertise? Have you ever attended any of these before prior to now?
I have never, and that's always been something of interest. And I've applied a few times. This was quite some time ago. Um, I think I've always felt like insecurity around just because of my songwriting, because I feel like it's not traditional. And this is something that like I like to speak fairly openly about, because I think just the way the music industry is shaped and like what songwriting makes money or what is successful, I really want to challenge that. But I also want to say, like, I don't consider myself a prolific writer by any means. It takes me a long time to write music. It takes me a long time to sit and like see it through from beginning to end, because I usually really want a lot of help. So for a lot of, I think for some of those reasons, also just logistical reasons, I haven't been in any collaborative songwriting camps, though I really would like to. Um, my collaboration ends up being within a band. So like, but as I said before, Tush, I was in another band for almost 10 years. And so my writing was within there. But now that I'm a front woman and like the primary songwriter, continuing to develop my songwriting is something that I have great interest in. And I think like Tush has given me the space to kind of be like, okay, I know I can do this. Like I know now like my abstract weird writing is actually good. It's been affirmed and like has connected and resonated with people. So I know I have it in within me to do more and to experiment and to grow in that way. So it's definitely something I want to experience.
Okay. I'm just using this combo piece to plug that S.A.C has an excellent songwriting camp program called Pro Songworks, depending on what city you're in. So it's across the country, Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto. It happens multiple times a year. We've got excellent event coordinators. Check it out on the website at songwriters.ca. The camps are really, really fun. I've helped facilitate like the 3 days for one of the camps last year. I had a good time and it's wonderful. Okay, that's it.
I'm going,
Okay,
period.
okay,
It's
okay.
happening.
All right. So uh, I wanted to ask you about um, your past influences in terms of music. I mean, you are in a band that touches on the disco sound, and you grew up listening to some of that stuff. But what music influenced you? Because it doesn't always have to be Black music. It could be like anything.
Oh, so much. My father and my mother, I just spent a lot of my formative teen years with my father. He is a huge music lover of so many different kinds of music. And so because of him, I grew up in a musical family. My parents didn't play or make music, but my siblings did. And so I was really influenced by such a vast array of genres growing up, largely like steeped in like Black music, but then it would kind of go up, we had Simon and Garfunkel playing a lot as well. We had Toots Thielsman on the harmonica doing his thing. Then we'd have like a weather report and kind of getting to more psychedelic aspects of music. And then of course, the more like Margie Joseph was a huge one, tons of Marvin Gaye. Stevie was like the be all end all for my family. Just like everyone kind of has their guy. Stevie was ours. Like we have every single one of his albums. But going into my adolescence is when I think electronic music really started coming in when I was about 12. And my brother and I connected a lot through music. So he would buy me, this is when also like downloading music became a thing. So like, whew, like it was just like, oh my God, so much music is available. So we just be everything all the time off LimeWire and whatever. Yep, LimeWire, Kazaa. We'd be like, oh, getting all this. So that's when like, boom. But for the sake of, us being with Songwriters Association of Canada right now, Chaos was a massive influence on me as a young girl. I have all of his albums, and like that as a Black musician in fusion,
Yes.
like in all the different influences he brought in was huge on me.
Yes.
Metric,
Okay.
big Metric fan, giant influence on me as well in terms of writing especially. And I think Emily Haynes's like lyrical writing and like kind of abstractness was a big influence on me as well. And Nelly Furtado, also gigantic. Her first album the first album I ever bought was Whoa Nelly.
She's a Honey Jam alumnus,
Oh
another
yes.
Canadian franchise. Yes.
Oh yes. Nelly
Yeah.
Furtado's, especially those first 3 albums were massive to me.
Yeah.
And then I do huge. And then like compositionally, 07 was when out of Australia, because my brother bought me all of their CDs and they were like, trip hop, chill hop, fusion. And that's why I was like, oh my God, all these different kinds of music all in one. I've always loved the melange, the mix. And I think a reason why I keep saying my songwriting has kind of been abstract, because to me, so much of the storytelling is actually the composition of the instruments. I love using vocal arrangements to actually write the song. Like I as much as I say I'm insecure about like conventional songwriting, I feel very confident about my skills as a vocal arranger. That's one of my favorite things to do and something I'm really good at. And I consider that, storytelling as well. It's like, how are the instruments telling the story? And so, yeah, like there's those influences sonically. Seal, big influence on me as well in terms of production and composition. But then like singing wise, well, then there's so many. Roisin Murphy, Moloko, massive influence. Shaka Khan, Mariah Carey, Erykah Badu, Tata Vega, Sia. Early Sia's work was huge for me on both a singer as well as a writer as well. I could go on. There's just so many. Like there's so many.
Good. It's good even to hear you mention Chaos. He celebrated his 50th birthday a few days ago, so shout out to him. It's great to hear you talk about artists, Canadian artists that came before now. They really created, I want to say they made history.
They did.
Whatever they were doing at the time that there wasn't anyone except for them. So
Estero
oh,
is big too.
yes,
Very big.
oh,
Yep.
Estero's still there. I follow her. I
Me
really
too.
like
Me
that. She's
too.
one of
I just mean
my
in terms of like what like Estero and Nelly and Chaos were doing in Canadian music. I'm like, it was pioneering work.
yeah, it
Like
was.
pioneering work for how they were not sitting in molds, even and Metric too, although they were labeled as like whatever indie rock. I'm like, there was lots of, experimental electronic things going on within metric as well. And so like big for me, because I was at those when those were coming out, I was like, yeah, between like 10 and 18, and like blew my world to see like, oh, there's people from here who are doing these like weird experimental things that were so fresh and just so different, and
Very,
it was big for me.
no, very. So now, one thing I want to bring up, which I'm dying to talk to alternative vocalists about. Um, I sat in on a call a few months ago with the event coordinators for the camp, the Songworks camp in Vancouver, and we got to talking about uh, Canadian vocalists dominate dance music. They also dominate the songwriting area as well. And they make most of their money, if they are making money, on their music overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very like striking topic because I was like, how can we keep everyone here? How can we showcase everyone right here across the country? And, we were all kind of perplexed as he dropped that fact or dropped it out there, like, what do we do? And, yourself as a vocalist and the front woman for a band, how do you feel about collaborating with, let's say, producers overseas, working overseas, taking gigs overseas versus being right here in Canada? Have you reached that stage yet in your quests to grow as a artist?
Yeah, I mean, in the last couple of Tush releases, we've been able to do some collaborations I've been really excited about. So you had brought up earlier the Ocean Lade release that we did. So he remixed our tracks, which was amazing. And Ocean Lade and Jamie have collaborated on, their Sunday social, the Box of Kittens parties and events that Jamie puts on. So there is a relationship there. I still consider myself, I wouldn't say I'm new anymore, but like when I started coming into Tush and really started, putting out music, that was my first foray into like the dance music world. So like DJ culture and like the art of the remix and like how it's a very different way of releasing music than I was used to. The previous group I was in was more like alternative R&B. And so different crowds, different scenes, different culture, different way of just doing things.
Mhm.
So I really considered myself a newbie when we were just putting stuff out in 2018. Like I was not versed in it, in like how this works in like dance music.
Right.
And then I also learned like for Canada, how challenging like the dance music scene is here and how just what you said, it's very much exported out. And then, you do your thing in Europe, in Asia, and in whatever. That being said, we got to do that collaboration with Ocean Lade, which was huge and really was like, okay, that has now opened up like South Africa a little bit.
Yes.
That has opened up like some places in the States. And then for our last album, after the last album, we got our track remixed by Matthew Herbert, which was
Mhm.
massive for me, someone who grew up on Roisin Murphy's music, and especially her first album that was produced by him. Jamie and I were over them. Jamie's also a giant longtime fan. And so being able to do that collaboration, I was like, okay, like we are connecting with, people I really respect and people who have done some amazing work that are international. And someone told me once, like, I think it's easy to get caught up in Toronto, being like it's the be all end all because it's such a rich and like, moving scene. But like when you make art, like it's international always. It's universal. And so like these connections don't have to exist only here. They can exist everywhere. And that kind of shifted my framework of like wherever you find the reception is where, your connections lie. And
Right.
so I'm starting to get that here. Like the CVC look was great, and I'm being like, yeah, okay, cool. Let's put this on. I'm like, great, like let's get house music, and or not let's get, but let's continue to push, you know, house music and find work and have a home, a larger home and a larger base in Canada. But again, like music is all over. Music is everywhere. It's not just here. So
Yeah.
I definitely feel the I definitely feel like encouraged to continue my connections with people who are outside of Canada. That being said, I have been a community organizer and developer and community development person longer than I've been longer than I've been a practicing professional musician. And so my organizing always is home here in Toronto and trying to expand to different places. So I will always keep that an important part of my work because I don't really believe in just leaving this behind because there's, you know, pastures that hear me otherwhere somewhere else. What I want is like, yes, we'll do that, and we'll also grow what we needs to be grown here because I'm not the only person making house music here. There's so many of us. There's and black artists doing this work, and yeah, hopefully you get a chance to like get into that too.
Yes, of course, of course. Um, we are doing like just a one-on-one, but how it was supposed to go was Sasha Williamson was supposed to be on with us.
Oh,
And,
I
and,
love her.
yeah, no, she's awesome. And so we're going to do like a back-to-back
Okay.
exclusive. We talk to you, we talk to her, so it's good.
Love Sasha so much. Oh my gosh,
Big
she's
Toronto
she's
booster, yeah.
incredible.
Uh,
And like Sadani is making huge waves in house and in house music and rap. Like she's doing something brand new as well. Wild Black, also another Black woman in house music who's amazing. Miss Milano, also an amazing woman doing rap and house music. Like, yeah, Sasha, Zaki, like, and Zaki's been holding it down,
no, she
you
has.
know,
She's
she's
been
been holding it down.
working with DJ producers in South Africa too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And also on our roster, one of our members, Isis Salam, she works with a label in Chicago, Dirty Bird. She's she's incredible for underground. She used to be part of, I think the group is called Thunder Heist.
Oh yes, yes. I always am like, fuck yeah, they're Canadian.
She's a
Like
she's a S.A.C member, and
Thunder
we
Heist was big for me in like I was what like my undergrad I think is when, and I always always from like yeah they're Canadian. Yeah,
yeah,
Thunder Heist is massive.
see, and that's the thing with Black artists, we are not knowing, not just us locally, but they put out such amazing material. You don't think that they're from Canada. And
Exactly. And we can't find each other because
yeah,
like there's the infrastructure for Black people doing this music is not what it is for other genres. Like we don't find each other because we're like, oh, we gotta leave. We gotta go to whatever, we gotta go to Europe, we gotta do whatever, and then we don't find each other, and then like, you know, but I think it's changing. I think it's changing. I think it is.
what I really like about Black History Month, like although people think that there's not enough coverage, it's not thorough enough, you're not looking at specific things, that happens. But with showcasing Black History Month S.A.C members, everyone can find themselves and find out what genre they are doing at the moment. And this month for February, we have everyone, every couple of days we post so everyone can see each other and start, looking to who they want to collaborate with, because collaboration is key, especially in the Canadian scene. It's very important. But the one thing I wanted to also talk to you about is um, there's one or two things. The one thing I noticed here, you wrote on your Instagram page, dance music, but make it existential crisis. And I'm like, oh, okay, I like this. So as soon as I read that, I remembered your voice. It's just, you have a very resounding voice. It's powerful. Like you hit very strong notes. And I'm like, that's what she's talking about. It's just like explosion. Where did you, what, this quote here, like, how did you come up with this? Dance music will make it as existential crisis.
I am like gagged that you picked up on that, first of all.
I look at everything. Look at everything.
um, I think I remember having a chat with Cyclist, a musician and DJ, also goes by Mark Gonzaga, who was he's a fantastic DJ, fantastic person, and fantastic guitarist. He was one of the OG mainline like creators, and he's who put out that Craigslist ad. And I had said I was talking to him one thing, I want to do original music. He's like, yes, but like, and he's like, yes, and like, I think people need dance music like in the world right now. Like people need release. And I was like, this I agree with. And I was struggling with we were struggling because I was so used to writing sad songs. I'm very open about like my neurodivergence and like the traumas and mental health diagnosis that I have and how that kind of comes through music. And if you listen to Oh My, you hear that for sure. And so I'd be like, well, I can't like write this music. I can't write disco. I can't write, dance music because I'm just sad all the time. And I don't know how to fuse these things together of like, I'm sad, but people are gonna dance. And then Oh My happened. And Oh My was originally kind of more of like a prog rock. Like the OG is much like psychedelic kind of rock kind of. But then we sent it to Osunlade, he flipped that, and I was like, and then it hit. Like people really liked that track, and it
Really,
traveled.
in terms of house music, I mean, he's a legend when it comes to
Yes.
production, and
Hmm.
then the Afro sound, and then the I call it like it plays on your ears. He's amazing for that. But when I heard the song, I'm like, your voice, um, it irradiates. It's very powerful. And I'm like, how come nobody knows her? People need to hear this in Toronto and across Canada, because you can sing anything. You can sing anything and it would have the same effect. Like really. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. Um, yeah, it was Oh My, the remixes where I was like, oh, I can write and, you know, it be dance music. Like I actually can do this and still honor, my sad girl life at the same time. And so that was where this dance but existential crisis came in, because I am always like writing about trauma or like very open about like my chaotic traumatic selves. And I didn't know how to fuse that until, maybe when Tush started making original music, because that was my thing with mainline. I was like, I kept feeling trapped. I was singing these songs, but they weren't mine. But I'm like, I want to say more of my truths, but I can't because they're covers. And then boom. So it's like, yeah, dance and my existential crisis of like the world and who I am and where we're at. And so, yeah, that's me kind of owning putting these things together.
Nice, nice. So S.A.C, we often get at S.A.C we often get messages, I think I'll say 2 to 5 times a week, with people wanting to know like how they can start. And like I don't know what to say, because some, when it comes to like pursuing a career in songwriting or music or creative arts, sometimes you stumble into your gifts and then you start exploring and then it becomes a thing. So I want to ask you, as an artist who's gone through this process of like in the scene, in the industry, looking on Craigslist, your future, to being in a band, writing, singing covers, what do you recommend to like new artists? Like how or
Ooh.
what is there anything you could advise them for getting into, breaking into, exploring? How do they
Yeah.
start?
Um, you start by making bad, quote unquote art, shit that you hate, but you start. Just begin. Just put one word and one little note on a piano or guitar or on your drum machine or on your machine pad or a cappella. It doesn't matter. A little boop. That's a song. Okay. Claim it. You're a songwriter. I think especially, and I'm going to point this to like emerging Black artists, you do not need institutional or white validation that you are an artist, a true artist. You are a true artist because of who you are, and that already exists in you. You are the creator. It doesn't matter who is around you, who has liked it or who hasn't. Regardless of all that, you are already a creator. You've already started because it lives within you. Now is the process of externalizing that. That's a challenging process because now there's these other energies, but you have to remember you are the creator and you will always have that gift no matter what. It's never going anywhere. You just have to make friends with it. And that it can be really difficult when you don't see yourself represented. When you don't see yourself, I didn't see myself ever in my music education until I started taking my reins. I said before, I was in a band. I was the only woman, I was the only Black person. And like, because I didn't exist and have the tools or the skills that they had, I was like, oh, well, I'm not a real musician. There's this idea of a real musician. And I think that's actually steeped in like white supremacy. Um, and so reminding like your gift is you already are the musician. You've already started. It's already there. So don't fret about that. It's there already. It just needs to come out, and it will come out coming kind of, you might think it's gnarly and rough and raw, which is beautiful. And you'll begin to understand it and how to use it the more that you do it. And you find people you feel safe with, find people who you trust your early creations with, and then you just keep growing. And like there's no rush, there's no guide, there's no like I'm supposed to do this. All of that is for the birds. It's all institutional shit that is like, again, steeped in oppressiveness. What you have is your own unique gift, and that will always be there, always. So just start, just begin. Even if no one has liked it, it doesn't matter. It's still a song. You're still a creative, you're still a writer.
Nice, nice. And now to conclude, um, uh, so this the theme for this year is the future of Black music in Canada. What would you like to see in terms of Black music? Um, where do you want it to go? How do you want it to be presented? Any changes you want to see?
I
What
want
do
to see it
you
everywhere.
what do you want to do maybe? Because they say be the change you want to see. So what do you want to do in the future for Black music also?
I want to see Black music not relegated to rap, R&B. I want to see infrastructure the same way that indie rock artists in Canada get infrastructure. I want to see the same thing for Black artists of all genres. Because regardless of the genre, if it's by a Black person, it's Black music. And I want that recognized and supported in radio play. I want more campus radio where there and like upliftment of campus radios who are people who are playing and programming diverse styles of music and diverse styles of music by Black people. I want to see Black rock take over the way that, white indie rock takes over. I want to see the same level. I want to see all the space and like the ability to move away from music as only a conventional commodity, but as art and humanity, and like making room for that instead of just little niche things. I want to see that in all the different ways that it exists.
Nice, nice. Yeah, no, I feel like it's possible as long as everyone's open and willing to actually help usher in the change. So
Yes. And not stuck to the like, music, a song is a minute and 35 seconds now. Let's bring back long songs. Let's bring back an 8-minute house track,
yeah,
Let's bring back all those kind of developments in music. Let's bring that back so people have space, actual breathing room to explore, and like also people have something different to listen to. It's not a bad thing.
it's
It's not
true.
bad to honor difference. It's a good thing. It's what we need. Mhm.
Hmm. Well, thank you so much for being so candid. Like this was so like eye-opening, and one thing I enjoy the most is you being able to talk about underground as it stands like right now, and your work with others who've been in the industry for a while. It's really nice to still say that, you worked with Canadian producers and other Canadian artists. I think that's what's most important, is to keep it right here. So thanks for that. And we're done. I'll see you for the next
That
panel.
was lovely. Thank you so much.
Before we go, do you want to let the people know where they can find you online?
That's right. I forgot to ask that. Okay,
Yeah. Do I say that or do you say that, Shanay?
I'll ask.
Okay.
I'll ask. Okay. So where can we find Tush online?
You can find us at Tush.Love.com. Likewise for our social media, we just put out our album Fantast 6 months ago. So it's our debut album. You can check it out and yeah, find us there.
All right. Thank you.